Now, if you hadn't noticed, this is an unwilling learner, okay? This is a very unwilling learner. This is a 3.5-year-old girl with autism, okay? She is pretty much non-vocal, although she has a little bit of echolalia. She will echo a little bit. She spends most of her time screaming, okay? To her. The self-stimulatory sort of just kind of you notice how effective I am with her almost immediately. Just thought I'd point that out. Yeah. Brittany is 3.5 years old. She's a child with autism. She has no requesting repertoire other than loud screaming, which is a very effective requesting repertoire, as you might expect. What is she requesting right now? Leave me alone. If she could say it, she would. So instead she screams, because it has produced the same function. People have left her alone. Can't imagine people are saying, okay, as soon as you put some demands on her, she starts to say, oh, okay, that's fine, let's keep working. People say, that's enough of that. Fine, okay. And as soon as you remove the demand, she stops screaming. She's in a school program at this time. A mother's behind a one-way mirror watching this video. And she's in the, I'm doing an assessment. I'm trying to figure out, how did she learn this? Point number one that's particularly important is that the person on your team who makes the most money ought to be the person sitting in the chair figuring it out first. It is typically not that way. Somebody else, usually the consultant, sits back and gives advice, gratuitous as it may be in many cases, gives advice as to what's going on, then sends a report or makes suggestions. I suggest that whole notion of a teacher as a strategic scientist, it's almost impossible for me to figure out what to do in these cases unless I take a few slaps in the face, unless I kind of get in there and figure this thing out. It's almost impossible to figure it out by just watching it. Because I'm manipulating a number of variables that it's impossible to tell somebody else to manipulate. I've got to know, I'm manipulating establishing operations, discriminative stimuli. I'm turning things on and off, and I couldn't be giving somebody advice that quickly because I'm responding to what she's doing. I'm trying things out, so to speak. So it's very important that in this kind of behavior that you be a part, that the consultant, the person who's ultimately going to guide the program, figure this out in a very intimate sort of way with the child. That was Skinner's notion of the dynamic process. His graduate students didn't watch what was going on in the cage. He did. He watched it and learned from it and didn't rely on his graduate students to tell him. He relied on his observation. I think that's particularly important. This is a child who has absolutely no interest of sitting and working with anybody, despite the fact that she needs a lot of intensive work. She's 3.5 years old and has learned very, very few skills. She engages in self-stimulatory behavior almost exclusively. She screams whenever demands are put on her, which removes the demands usually. She cannot label anything. You can't say, what's this, and her know what it is. You can't ask her any WH questions, though. What do you cut with? And her say, knife. Her echo is very, very weak. She can hardly echo what you say. She can hardly understand what you say, although it's good enough to be used. She never talks first except to scream. She never uses any words or any other verbal behavior other than screaming. And screaming is a form of verbal behavior. Use no other form of verbal behavior in order to get things. So, given that profile, this little girl needs a lot of intensive work, and she has to like being around teachers. If she doesn't like being around teachers, she's not going to learn much, because she needs to be around teachers a lot. And if she has no interest in being around teachers, then the likelihood that you're going to be able to teach them up is remote. It's a little bit more in the this wasn't just a bad day. You know, I didn't catch her she would also vomit on you occasionally, which was a very effective behavior. If you want people to leave you alone, it works very, very well. There's this kind of natural sort of thing when somebody, you tend to move away. I don't know what it is, human nature, I guess. Watch what happens here. Start to slow down a little bit, gets a little bit better as we move away. Anything that looks like we're not going to be working looks pretty darn good to her. Watch as soon as I say, well, why don't you come back over here? Watch this. Out there. Look. Oh, not Dad. Oh, no. Oh, no, not Dad. Oh, gosh, another one of those. Worsening set of conditions. Work is always a worsening set of conditions for her. Now, it's interesting she runs back to the table. She used to be a flopper and a bolter as well, which is a new DSM-4 diagnosis. You can go into DSM-4 and find flopper and bolter. If it isn't, it ought to be, shouldn't it? Because there's enough kids that exhibit that symptom, if you will. She was a flopper and a bolter as well, but she's that's gone away, but there's reasons for that. And those reasons are related to her learning history. Why do we do this? What I want to do is use this as an example of how the teacher as a strategic scientist changes this and makes Brittany enjoy being taught as opposed to hating. And it may have nothing to do with her autism is the reason why she hates it. It may have to do with an analysis of the teaching variables that have produced this. So if we know how it's produced, we can probably change that. And I want to go through an analysis with Brittany and several other children of that. This is a part of the discussion about how do you get children who need a lot of intensive work to enjoy sitting with you and working with you. That's a very important issue. If you don't get them to enjoy sitting and working with you and responding quickly, the likely outcome for them is not as good as if they will sit and enjoy working with you. It's absolutely key to the teaching of children with autism. And the issue we want to make is that working through it and the use of extinction may not be the best procedure given what we now know about establishing operations. It needs to be part of it. But the idea that every kid has to go through a period of screaming and not enjoying it and being required to do it may in fact be a topic in which we can look at some other ways of doing it based upon a whole science of the principles that we've talked about so far. So that's what I'd like to present to you. How do you get kids to come to you instead of run away from you? And if they're running away from you like that, maybe you're not ready to teach them. Maybe there's some other things you need to do before you are ready and how to get to that. Okay. There it is. Right back to that stuff. Oh no, not that. Let me tell you how that developed. The problem behavior developed for a lot of reasons. Let me tell you how the behavior of running back to the table and not flopping and bolting, because you might expect that she would flop and bolt instead of run back to the table. How would that develop? Well, basically what happened was this. Whenever anybody would put demands on her, if she would flop to the floor and begin to scream at 3.5 years old and try to bolt, her parents, and her mother in particular, would say, no way, and guide her right on back. However, as soon as she got over to the table or someplace where she was supposed to do some kind of instructional task, what would she start doing? She'd start screaming, then release her. So she basically learned this: don't flop over here, and don't bolt. Get to that table as quick as you. Don't waste time with this flopping and bolting stuff. It's inefficient use of my energy. Don't do that. Get over to that table, because if you flop here, they're going to move you there anyway, so get over there. And then start screaming. It's the result of differential reinforcement. Extinction, differential reinforcement. Don't flop here, extinction. Go to that table and scream. They will reinforce you by the removal of the demand. That's how she learned to differentially run immediately to the table. So it's not as though, well, at least you got it going over there. I mean, they got to go going over there for the right reasons. The problem is it provided no real benefit to them, because they still had to deal with this. Okay. You can see how well this is going now. I'm really doing quite well now. What I basically was doing now is I'm trying to figure out how she learned it. But I'm also now trying to look for competing reinforcers. I've pretty well figured out, I think, how she's learned it. I've been putting demands on her, taking them off. Putting demands on her, taking them off. And I'm not saying to myself, this screaming behavior and unwillingness to work with a teacher is not the result of her autism. It's the result of some teaching process gone awry. Some mistakes have been made in terms of teaching her. A very important point. You ought not to say, well, it's the child's problem, or they've got to learn to like it, whether they like it or not. You don't want to start with that conclusion. Many discrete child training programs include the notion that, well, the child's just plain not going to like it, and they're going to have to get over it. I suggest to you that you may not get the best possible outcome with that assessment. That you want to talk about this in terms of worsening and improving set of conditions. And for some reason she's learned it, and we'll talk a little bit more about what the conditions are in which she learned it. There's all the screening that you see going on, and now I'm looking for competing reinforcers, which is an important idea. In other words, can I find something that she will work for, so to speak? So I bring out a little bit of food, you can see how, and a little bit of drink, you see how well this goes. I guess that wouldn't work too well, huh? Now you gotta remember, her mother's behind a one-way mirror watching all of this. Kind of interesting. Notice how she'll make almost no eye contact, spins continuously and screams continuously. Doesn't flop and bolt. Why? Because flopping and bolting has been put on extinction. Not by me, but by somebody else. All of that should be described as a demand or a request. She's basically saying, take your demands away and get rid of this teaching situation, and I will make your life better if you make my life better. So it's kind of this mutually interactive thing. I'll make your life miserable until you make my life better. And if you don't, then we're going to have this. Now, should you decide to remove the demand and make her life better, you feel better, she feels better, and both behaviors have been strengthened. Screening has been strengthened as a behavior, and giving in has been strengthened as a behavior on your part. Now, the war is not over. You just have détente. Okay? You just have détente. That's all you have. Because sooner or later, those tensions are going to come right back again and are going to collide. So that's not the answer to it. The answer to this is, how do you get her to approach you and want to be with you, as opposed to scream all the time? That's what I'm trying to figure out. And I haven't yet. I say, okay, come on over here, Britt. Watch what happens here. She starts walking down the hallway. She's fine going down the hallway. As I've said, mentioned this before, our biggest reinforcer, unfortunately, is eating stand at this point. likes the feeling of the sand, she likes to pour it on her head and eat it, and she thinks that's where we're going. It's the doorway to the outside. In Vero Beach, the world is a sandbox in Vero Beach, Florida. So she thinks she's going to some sand. She's pretty happy. Notice how the behavior is slowing down as soon as I remove it. The demands. Watch this. Did you see the turnaround? As soon as I turn her around, she says to herself, uh-oh, my world is worsening. For a moment there, it was improving. Now it's worsening. And she says, and what I do is I scream, and then when you try to get me to do anything, I throw my hands up, I throw things off. She'll do a little bit right here. Won't stop screaming. I said to her, we can bring a TV down there. She said, yeah, sure. Yeah, good. I just wanted to hear what her echoic sounded like, and could I get any instructional control at all? Just wanted to hear it. We left, then we came back. Yeah, there we go. Not bad. By this time, you've heard me say before, her mother is behind the one-way mirror, and I'm thinking, Brittany's getting pretty worked up here. I better go in there and kind of talk to Mama. And basically, I suggested to Linda that maybe we would come back tomorrow. I couldn't even get the word tomorrow out. She said, no way. What has happened is that several people have been working with Brittany through an early intervention, and they would come to the house. Brittany would do this kind of scene here, about 10 minutes trying to get her to work with them. The people would then go into another room, whisper on a cell phone to their supervisor, and then suggest that they would be back tomorrow, and then never show up. And then on to the next DI provider, as you might expect, and the next one. Mainly because there was all they thought, this isn't exactly what I bargained for. I didn't know how I was going to get this kid to do much of anything. So when I said tomorrow, Linda said no way. She said, get back in there. She said, and don't come out until she's fixed. Literally I said, I'm going back in, Linda. She's really ticked now. What I'm doing is I'm putting demands on her, taking them off. Putting demands on her, removing them. I'm trying to figure out what are the conditions under which she will scream. Anything I've found that looks like a demand, that suggests a teaching situation, will always, any stimulus that looks like a demand, even looking at her is enough to make her think, you're about to ask me to do something, aren't you? And just in case, let me tell you what I do, Dr. Know-It-All. That's what I do, should you have forgotten. Okay? How did she, the question is, how did she learn that? That's what's the question that I'm looking for. Oh yeah, I think there's all kinds of respondents going on as well as operants. In other words, the screening is operant. She's learned it through the consequences. But usually people under the condition of some aversive condition, which demands are very aversive to her, also basically tends to show other signs of distress. I bet her heart rate's up a little bit, I bet her blood pressure's up, her face is flushing a little bit. Those were the respondents that led me to say, Linda, maybe we ought to kind of come back at this. I've got an idea what's going on. And Mom said, I mean, she clearly is distressed in the same way that most of us are distressed under conditions that are aversive. And that's and you're starting to see the respondents, or the autonomic nervous system responses to distressing conditions. Yeah, she's really ticked off here, pretty much. And I'm still trying to figure out what it is I can do to overcome this. Look what she does right there. She kisses the ground outside the room. Thank goodness we're out of that room. And maybe this guy will go away too. possibility. Brittany acting kind of like the Pope is the way I describe it. It's the papal Brittany. She says, thank goodness. Now I show you this because this is the day before with her mother. Okay, you see me working with Brittany. This is the day before with her mother. Her mother had read the Me book and was trying some things. Brittany was enrolled in a school. I just want to show you that it wasn't just my clinical skill with young children that evoked all of that. Yeah, you could hear me say that she hit her head, oh, that's not good. Reassuring the mother that she was with an experienced person who realized that head hitting was not a good thing. What? I mean, it just came out. I don't know. What else do you say other than that's not good? Well, you kind of see more of the more of the same sort of response. What I know at this particular point, I knew that anything that looked like teaching was a worsening set of conditions. It's a very important variable. If teaching is a worsening set of conditions, we have a problem that we need to change. Teaching should be an improving. The only thing that turned that situation into an improving set of conditions is when I left and let her go. Her world always got better when somebody wasn't teaching her. Her world always got worse when somebody tried to teach her. That's a set of conditions that we should overcome. Teaching should never be a worsening set of conditions. It should be an improving set of conditions. Why should it not be a worsening set of conditions? Because if you're going to have to teach a child intensively a lot of skill in direct teacher-directed contact, then the last thing you want is that to be the worst possible part of every day for that child. You want it to be the best part of the day, not the worst part of the day. What we've established here, or what's been established in Brittany's repertoire, is that teaching is a worsening set of conditions, correlated with less reinforcement. It is correlated with less reinforcement than being left alone. Being left alone is always better as far as Brittany is concerned. That has been accidentally taught. That is not a natural course of events. Now, Brittany doesn't say things like, leave me alone, can I have a break, which would be somewhat appropriate things to say that people say under worsening conditions. You and I would say, stop that, leave me alone, I don't want to do that. She has no other repertoire of manding. So what does she do instead? She engages in problem behavior like screaming, flopping, bolting, potentially hitting, scratching, pinching. All those behaviors could very well be occurring as well. What you're just seeing is screaming. But the behaviors of hitting, biting, pinching, flopping are all for the same reason. They just have different topographies. It's not as though they're different behaviors and that it should be analyzed differently. So if you see a wide variety of behaviors that don't only include screaming and that sort of thing, there's not a reason to believe, well, it must not be the same analysis. It's exactly the same analysis, it's just different topographies or forms. What we've established here with Brittany, what I know now, is that her strongest reinforcer is the removal of demands. In other words, a teacher leaving and removing teaching materials is the best thing that happens to her every day. Many children with autism who tantrum through, when you're trying to do kind of a discrete trial, sit down and work with them, tantrum through, they tantrum through all of that, and the analysis is usually, we need to work through that. I suggest to you that that may not be the best analysis. The analysis may say, we need to figure out how do we turn teaching into an improving set of conditions instead of a worsening set of conditions. Okay? The other issue is that many people establish the fact that it is a worsening set of conditions, so I'm going to actually use the fact that this child will work to terminate my instruction and use it as a reinforcer. That's what go play is. Go play, when you use go play as a reinforcer, what you're really saying is, my teaching is so aversive that this child will respond to have my teaching terminated. They dislike my teaching so much, they will work to terminate it. Which never seems like a good thing to admit, so to speak. But many people say, well, that's what children with autism have to do. They have to learn to like it whether they like it or not, and use extinction in order to set up that situation. We suggest that you want to be very careful. And in fact, in all of our programs, go play is never the reinforcer. The removal of the demand is not the reinforcer. When I say, what is it? And she says, pen, the reinforcer isn't go play. Okay? Should it be go play, you're going to run into lots and lots of problems. Because I want her to enjoy being around us, and it produces fun for her as opposed to it produces a removal of something aversive. Now, could you get Brittany to respond that way? You probably could. The long-term effect will be a problem, and I'll talk more about that in a minute. So instead of saying, I'm going to use go play as a reinforcer, I decide, can I attract her to me with a reinforcer that effectively competes with the reinforcer that's maintaining the problem behavior. The problem behavior is maintained by somebody has accidentally made teaching an aversive set of conditions. And as a result, anything that looks like teaching increases the value of escape and evokes all behavior that produces it. That's the definition of establishing operation. I'm going to come back to that. Teaching is a worsening set of conditions, and anything that looks like teaching increases the value of escape as a reinforcer and evokes all behaviors that will in fact produce escape. And that's what's pretty much going on at this particular point with Brittany. I want to say, how can I make teaching an improving set of conditions, a better set of conditions, not a worsening set of conditions? Okay. Let's take a look. How do I get her to come and sit down? You all heard the video in the back there. You recognize it as Barney. Yeah, what follows is brief Barney therapy. Okay? This is brief Barney therapy. Instead of saying to myself, I'm going to make her work through this tantrum and keep putting demands on her and make her work through it and let her do 2 puzzle pieces and go play. When you do that, you accept the notion that my teaching always remains aversive, but that she will learn to work to get rid of it and therefore will be cooperative for short periods of time. I don't want to establish that. I've established the fact that she has learned that teaching is aversive, but I can use that aversiveness through go play to get her to do it. I suggest you not use that logic. The problem with that logic is that you don't want to be seen to your child, or as a teacher, you don't want to be seen as something aversive. Because under many, many conditions, she's not going to, in this case Brittany, he or she is not going to approach you. You ever see when you go to approach a child, they're playing with some toys. If you are a worsening set of conditions and they're playing with toys, they do one of these numbers. Kind of looking back to see if you're there. That's only because you are a worsening set of conditions, not an improving. Start to walk over with things that you give to the child. Suddenly they start to look for you and want you to come towards you. I mean, why do they do that? Because every time you get close to me, something worse always happens in my life. Anytime you ask me to sit down, my world never gets better. It is always worse whenever you decide it's time for me to learn. And people say we need to accept that in children with autism, and we need to use the negative reinforcement of escape. Use it. We suggest that that will cause problems. What kind of problem? Children will approach you, and when you think about it, when somebody in the everyday environment says, what's this, and you say pen, rarely is the reinforcer, oh, go play. I mean, when are you ever going to hear pen again under those conditions? Oh, I see, saying pen gets me away from you. Rarely is that the reason why I say pen. So the likelihood that you will hear pen again under normal conditions, everyday life conditions, is remote. But the only reason why I'm saying it is because now you leave me alone. In other words, your teaching is so aversive that I'll work to terminate it. Not a good analysis of where you want to be. So I brought in a competing reinforcer. Okay? I brought in a competing reinforcer. She comes right over the table and sits down. I want her approaching me. This is the process people refer to as pairing. Stimulus, stimulus, pairing. I'm pairing myself with what? An improving set of conditions, not a worsening set of conditions. Okay? I slide the demand in front of her. What does she immediately start doing? Immediately starts screaming. Why does she start screaming? Because anytime somebody's sitting across the table, slides a puzzle in front of me, my world always gets worse. And increases the value of escape, and evokes all behaviors that have produced escape. She starts to scream. As soon as I slide it in, that actual sliding in of the demand is called an establishing operation. It's a motivational variable. It changes the value of escape as a reinforcer. You noticed a few minutes ago there was no value to escape. As soon as I slide a demand in front of her, escape becomes valuable. Why? Because whenever people have done that, my world has always gotten worse. In other words, I've never got quite as much reinforcement for sitting here responding as I do other places. Watch what happens next. As soon as she starts screaming, what do? I keep the demand there and I turn off the video. I have to use at this point a little bit of extinction. That's a little bit of an example of extinction. I have to use a little bit of extinction. Why do I have to do that? I pretty much have no choice, or I will accidentally reinforce that. So I use a little bit of extinction. I slow the behavior down. She stopped, but you notice how little she actually stopped? You notice she was gasping for air when I turned it on? Let me back it up so you can see that. I required very little behavior on her part to get the reinforcer back. She was literally gasping for air. If I required too much behavior in order to get the reinforcer back, I would have kept the value of Barney out of sync with the value of escape. What would have stayed high? The value of escape. The value of Barney would have not effectively competed, because now I'm using a competing reinforcer. How am I getting her not to want to escape from my demand? I have a competing reinforcer. I'm using Barney, which is effectively doing what to the value of escape? Removing it. However, if you start to put too many demands on her, Barney will go down in value and escape will go right back up. As soon as escape goes up as a valued reinforcer, what does it evoke? Screaming and canceling. You're playing with competing. In almost all cases, in teaching kids with autism, you're playing with competing reinforcers. You're looking for one reinforcer to offset the value of another reinforcer, almost like a kind of an algebraic summation, if you will, of reinforcers, so that the value of your reinforcer that you're programming is more valuable than the reinforcer that has taught the inappropriate behavior. That's what you're looking to do in most cases. Now, there's a number of variables that account for that, and we'll take a look at them. Watch what happens right here. I'm sliding in demand. It's called stimulus demand fading. Notice I'm just kind of sliding in the demands. I've established that I can get her to come to me. She can enjoy what she's doing, and now I'm starting to slide in a demand. You notice the demand now doesn't evoke the screaming because it's correlated with an improving set of conditions, not just a worsening set of conditions. Now watch what happens here. All I said to her was, "Good, Britt." She thought, wait a minute. A guy sitting across the table, a puzzle, and now he's talking. And he's looking at me. My world always gets worse when this configuration of stimuli hit me. When this constellation is here, my world is always worse. So what do? I'll just scream. Because then he will I know that's a demand. She thinks I said, sit here, do every puzzle, and don't get up till you're an adult. It's the way she heard that. It might as well have been that, because it produced exactly the effect. She is so sensitive to anything that looks like a demand, that she will scream when any set of stimuli are there suggesting a demand. That's a problem. How did she learn that? Well, the way she learned that, well, we'll talk about it in a minute. So now I have to use extinction. Every time I use extinction, I realize that I'm doing something I don't want to do. I consider myself having said good with a teaching mistake. I made a mistake by shifting the value. Now, it's maybe a mistake that was unavoidable, because I don't know her history that well. But I made a mistake by causing that problem. Not, she's got to knock it off and learn not to be so stubborn and unwilling to learn. I've got to figure out how to teach her so she enjoys it. And we'll have lots and lots of responding from her. But if I don't do that, then I'll never get teacher-directed demands to consistently be responded to in favorable sort of ways for her. I consider myself having said, oh, good Brit, a mistake on my part. That results in what? Now I've got to use extinction. And I've got to change this is the idea of the teacher as a strategic scientist. I now need to change what I do so as to not evoke that, but still put demands on her. I'm the one that needs to change, not her. And when I change, guess who else will? She will. I have no choice now. But you got to remember, whenever I run extinction, I'm saying to myself, I wish I didn't have to do it. I wish I didn't make the mistake. But I now have to not accidentally reinforce the screen. So I've got to run this procedure. And I'm trying to prompt her. See, I should have turned it on right there. She was gasping for air, and I missed about a 3-second break. I want to keep the response effort low for getting Barney back, because if the response effort is high, what will happen? The value of escape will go way up, and she'll start screaming again. I want, if it's real easy to get Barney, if it's hard to get Barney, I'm going to scream in the heck with Barney. I'd rather be out eating sand than watching Barney, if it's that hard to get. However, if it's easy to get Barney, the value of screening to get another reinforcer is going to be way down. And the value, and I will gladly work for Barney. This is the idea of how people kill reinforcers. They say, no, that's not, every time I have to buy a new reinforcer, I always got to get a new toy. They get sick of them after a while. Bring out another one, and they get sick of them. I'm suggesting to you that there's a number of variables, one of which is response effort, that may in fact be killing reinforcers relative to other reinforcers, because reinforcers are always relative. There is no absolute reinforcer. Once you cut off somebody's air and you make air contingent upon responding, that's going to look a lot better than Barney in almost every case. Okay? But absent that kind of draconian sort of measure, it's unlikely that anything is absolutely valuable as a reinforcer, other than some of the primary reinforcers like, being able to breathe and those kinds of things. Every reinforcer is always valuable relative to something else. And the amount of time you spent with it and how much you've gotten it is all relative. All those reinforcers are relative to one another. She could say shut up, she would have, right then. She could have said it. Well, she kind of was, wasn't she? Said it there. All of a sudden she kind of said Barney. I said, well, let me turn that on. She's echoing a little bit. I said, fine. Now I'm saying to myself, I made a mistake. I want to teach you to enjoy. Notice I don't have to keep her here anymore. Notice she's not trying to get away from me. I'm paired up with more reinforcement. Teaching procedures are now, and teaching setting, those materials are now paired up with an improving set of conditions, not a worsening. She's not flopping. She's not trying to get away. She's not screaming. Now it's my job to slide in demands, and in a month or so have her doing hundreds of responses and enjoying it for about 30 seconds of one. That's where this is going. That's where we're looking. Well, where are we going to be in a couple of months with this? In a couple of months, we're going to be hundreds and hundreds of responses, and she'll be glad. As soon as we set up a work condition, she will run to it as opposed to away from it. She will come towards us as opposed to away from us. That's the kind of situation that you want to set up, as opposed to, uh-oh, the bell rings and she knows that is a therapist. The bell ringing becomes what? An aversive condition that increases the value of what? Of escape, and they go away screaming. Ultimately, keeping in mind that a couple of weeks down the road, she's going to be making hundreds and hundreds of responses, and I'm not going to need to be so careful. But at first, I'm going to have to be careful. So what have we done so far? We've correlated the table with a better set of conditions, not a worsening set of conditions. And now I'm systematically figuring out, now that I got her there with me, how can I not kill Barney as a reinforcer? You don't want to kill Barney. Well, no, I don't think you do. I don't think you do. Certainly not as a reinforcer, okay? Although he does get on your nerves a little bit, you have to admit. In any case, you don't want to kill Barney as a reinforcer. I could kill Barney as a reinforcer right now and turn her right back into a screamer. I could say, oh, wait a minute, you got to work for Barney. Here's a little token economy, which she has absolutely no idea. I got pennies laid out there, and she's throwing the pennies, no less, looking. Well, wait a minute, you guys, you don't understand, Brent, you're going no place with that. I could be doing, and what would it look like? It would look like she doesn't really care about Barney. See, Dr. Novodo, you're wrong about that. Once you've established a reinforcing condition, and there may be many reinforcers, don't kill the reinforcer by how you present stimulus. Your teaching procedures manipulate the value of reinforcers. If I said, here's another example of how I could kill Barney as a reinforcer, or make Barney look like he's not a reinforcer. Britt's over here watching Barney. Turn off Barney, Britt, and come and sit down and work. And now she screams. Why should that come as any surprise? I mean, if somebody were to call you and say, you having fun at your house? And you say, oh yeah, I'm having a lot of fun. And this person were to say to you, you know, we're not having any fun over here at my house. Would you like to come over? Now, if you say yes, you fail an IQ test. People don't go from fun to no fun willingly. Why would it surprise you when I say, turn off Barney and now come work? Oh, you can get it back, Britt. Yeah, sure. You can get it. That relationship between reinforcers and stimuli is not established. So you get a scream. See, I can't control the reinforcer. I can't get her to work for me. That all has to do with the way in which stimuli and reinforce. So what do? We give the reinforcer freely. We pair ourselves. We give it. We become correlated with it. We give it, and then what do we start doing? Slipping in demands. And we're careful how we slip in demands. We make them errorless. All those teaching procedures are now going to be embedded in this process of stimulus-stimulus pairing, where you're now a reinforcer, and now I start to up the requirements for responding within the context of an improving set of conditions, and next thing you know, the child wants to work for those things. Yes, you have a question? That'd be fine also. I just wanted to use the table because that was the condition under which the teacher was trying to get it to work and see if we could do it. But certainly, the same principles would apply no matter what the setting is, no matter what the teaching setting is, or how you're going to present the demand. Yeah. So I've got her sitting there. She likes it. I'm sliding in the number of demands, and all these teaching procedures are then going to follow. So step number one is pair yourself with reinforcement. Pair the teaching procedures and the materials with reinforcement, and then don't kill your reinforcers by how you teach. And I'm going to go into much more detail on what these teaching procedures are. I'm just giving you the general picture of it. You can see how you want that table to be correlated with the availability of reinforcement, not the removal of reinforcement. In many discrete trial training programs, that table is correlated with the removal of reinforcement. I'm always having more fun someplace else than sitting here. And by table, I use that metaphorically. It could be just approaching a teacher and willing to interact. It doesn't have to be a table. But certainly, she's going to need to learn to kind of sit and enjoy it rather than run from it. The aggressive behaviors that you see, and the scratching, the biting, the pinching, are all evoked if the table is a worsening set of conditions, which is called, and I'll give you the term and I'll show you a little bit later, reflexive establishing operation. The table, the teacher, and the demands become a reflexive establishing operation. In other words, those materials are a worsening set of conditions. You want to be, when the child sees you and teachers the child says, now there's an improving set of conditions. My world just got better, as opposed to, oh no, not you again. Because I know what's going to happen whenever you're around. Take a look. Remember I said, good job, Britt? And I caused that problem, and now I had to use extinction. Watch now, teacher has assigned to. You notice there's no, okay, SD1, SD2. I'm changing moment to moment based upon whom? Her. My teaching procedures are changing based upon her, not based upon, well, so she's got to sit here and like it. We're doing 3 responses before we go play. She's got to work through it whether she likes it or not. None of that is part of the thinking. Notice how I don't even look at her as I'm presenting this? I call this my coy presentation. Notice how coy I am. No, I'm not really presenting as a man. You must be mistaken. This isn't look, I'm not even looking at you. How could this be a demand? Called stimulus demand fading. I'm trying to get rid of every stimulus that looks like a demand but still presents one. I'm fading in the number of demands, or the type of demands, or the quality of the demand. Because if I were to look at her, slide this in and say, do this, what reinforcer would become more valuable? Escape. And as soon as escape became more valuable, all behaviors that have produced escape will be evoked, will literally be drawn out of her. What would she start doing? Screaming. I want Barney to say stronger than escape. Well, my teaching procedures may dictate that. Here, take that. What do you think of that? Sliding it in, seeing what it evokes. If, when I slid that in, I would have got screaming, what would I have done? Extinction, and then I would have said, I won't do that again. Let me find another way to slide demands in so as to not shift these reinforcers. It wouldn't be, well, now we'll work through it. She's got to get over that. She's just too strong-willed. She's stubborn. She's recalcitrant. She needs to learn to pay attention and do this. That's never part of the analysis. She is who she is as a result of a history, and I need to change that history and not say, well, she needs to learn to do it. The problem is, if I take that position, she's not going to enjoy or want to approach teaching situations. And she is someone who needs to be around teachers and be directed in teaching a lot, or she won't learn much. Why? Because she's 3.5, and her history so far is not having learned a lot just by naturally occurring contingencies. She's somebody who, like Lobot said, is going to need a lot of direct, precise teaching, and if she hates it, the likelihood I can do very much of that is remote. You can see I actually act as though I know what I'm doing here for a second. A little confidence there. You notice I don't say a word. I'm afraid if I even talk, what's going to happen? The value of escape is going to go up. Barney's up here right now. Okay? I could easily shift the value where Barney drops, escape, getting away from me, goes up in value as a reinforcer, and it evokes all screaming. As soon as the value goes up, that literally pulls all the screaming out of her. Whenever this is valuable, scream. Whenever you want to be away from somebody, screaming is the always thing that has produced being away. So if you push the reinforcer up by putting the demand on her in a way that causes that shift, next thing you know, what you get is a lot of screaming. So I'm trying to avoid that. So I'm not even going to talk. Okay, now I got to put one puzzle piece in. The same circumstance that produced all the screaming previously. All right, now I'm going to go for a second one. I want you to watch in particular what happens here. And I think it is this kind of molecular analysis that I'm doing of step-by-step what's going on that must be done to overcome most of the aggressive, tantruming, unwillingness to work behavior. It's this kind of molecular analysis of the variables. What am I playing around with? First thing I did is I found the competing reinforcer, and I attracted her to me with the reinforcer. Then I made sure the way in which I'm teaching doesn't shift values of reinforcers. That's what's going on so far. I'm also careful to keep the number of demands down, which is part of my teaching procedure. I'm keeping the number of demands down. Why? Because I can shift values. That's what happens when somebody screams. You shift values of reinforcers is really what's going on when you get those kind of tantrums. It would be more valuable to be someplace else other than here, and screaming has always produced that someplace else, or at least to some degree has. And that is the history of many kids with autism. Now, I'll talk also about self-stimulatory behavior, where that fits into this whole thing in just a second. You know, kids who you present materials to them and they start to spin and they start to look away, they look at their hands, all that is also part of this analysis. Now, watch what happens next. Another principle identified through this teaching. I take two puzzle pieces out and I ask her to do it. Watch what happens next. I'm trying to figure out the remote, actually. Now, I'm asking her to put that yellow one in. No talking, because I don't want to evoke the screaming. But watch what happens here and what this makes the argument for. Watch what starts to happen. Starting to scream. Getting louder. Now I have to use extinction. I want you to take a look at that again. Let me rewind it and take a look at that again and think of what I could have done differently so as to avoid that scream and therefore have a contact reinforcement. Look at her. It's a hard task for her. Probably the distance from the table and the configuration of that made that very, very difficult. And you notice as it got more difficult, what started happening? Screaming, screaming, screaming. Hard tasks increase the value of escape as reinforcers, when if I do the task, I get the other reinforcer. Another important variable. Any task that's hard, that I have difficulty in doing, that delays my reinforcement, is going to change the value of escape. What could I have done to turn that hard task into an easy task? Helped her, which is called the P word. Prompt. I could have prompted. So prompts aren't just valuable in teaching skills, they're manipulations of values of reinforcers. Errorless teaching is actually a manipulation of the value of reinforcers that keep your child working with you. That's why we use errorless teaching. It's not just because errorless teaching and fading produces better acquisition. It changes the values of reinforcers. If I would have made it errorless, in other words, she wouldn't have had a chance to keep trying and making mistakes because it was a hard task, what would have happened to the value of escape? It would have stayed low. What would have happened to the value of Barney? He'd have stayed high. As soon as it was hard to do, or if I'd done, nope, nope, try again, nope, try again, what do you think would have been happening during those nopes? Yeah, what would happen to the value of escape? Nope, try it again. You can bet she would be screaming. That's the reason why your prompting procedures ought to include an errorless teaching. Prompt her before she makes a mistake, not after. And don't tell her no 2 times before she does. Because a lot of no, and then prompt, in fact, changes the values of reinforcers. Now, we'll talk about the fact of what about the child who already knows it, why would you prompt? We'll talk about all that kind of stuff, because there's going to be a lot of questions about that, I know, and I'll be glad to address that. Within the context of this, what should I have done? Not wait until she was wrong. Do what? Help her to be right. Avoid her being wrong. 0-second delay prompting. As soon as I asked her to do it, help her hand. What do you think would have happened to the value of escape? It would have stayed low. What happened to the value of Barney? He would have stayed strong. What would happen to screaming? It went away. Some of the value of errorless teaching is a manipulation of the establishing operation, motivation. It actually changes the motivational variables. That is one of the reasons why, in some situations, not using errorless teaching. Now, most of us did not get taught errorlessly in everyday life, but we're also not a child with a limited repertoire and this kind of history. I went to Catholic school. There was no errorless teaching going on there, let me tell you. Okay, the nun was behind me most of the time. You know, in the 50s, that's the way it was kind of done. You were in a class of 40 children, and the teacher, the nun, was behind you. Well, I should be talking in this building. Oh my God! I forgot where I was there for a minute. Oh, I'm going to get in trouble. No, they were very nice. I loved it every minute of it. There was absolutely no problem at all. If you had a problem and you were disruptive, you would get hit in the back of the head with an eraser. Now that's not exactly an errorless teaching procedure that we recommend, and I pretty much went home every day with a head full of chalk on almost every occasion. And I still learned, kind of, a little quirky, but still learned. I mean, and most of us have. It's a completely different situation in teaching someone. We'll get into the issue of prompt dependency, I promise you, and there'll be questions about that related to errorless teaching.